Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Today it's me and my co-host Max Helmer from the Low Carb Consultant. Today we're going to be answering your questions in the latter part of this discussion, but we've got a new topic for today. So we're just keeping up to date with what's going on around us at the moment, what we see, what we hear, and trying to address any concerns you might have. So if you do have any questions on this topic or anything else, let us know and we'll answer it later. But how are you doing today, Max?
I am doing fantastic. Just got home from dropping off the kids at school. It's 8 a.m. Central Time, man. So I've got my coffee. I've got you. I've got the people in the chat, the comments. I'm ready to go, man.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
I'm ready as well. So yeah, I mean, if we were to sort of pit the two together, so a carb fueled athlete, we're talking about getting big and muscular here, like bodybuilding, hypertrophy purposes specifically. Um,
Hmm.
there's going to be like a few. Well, there's going to be a few sort of waves, a few thoughts. So I guess the first one would be that they'll say, oh, more carbs means more food. You need carbs to fuel your workouts. They've got an argument there for the performance side of things. That's what they usually do.
I
We'll debunk each one as we go through the podcast. But
sure.
I'll just name the three first. The second one is there's no fat fueled elite athletes in the world, which we'll talk about later as well. And I think the third one I'm guessing would be the idea that everyone else does it, and if it was that good, we'd all be doing it. In terms of like having carbohydrates in your diet to build muscle. Um, First of all, what's been your experience so far on a carnivore diet or a low carb sort of keto diet, Max, in terms of building muscle? Would you say you built more muscle now? Is it easier to maintain? What are the differences for you now versus perhaps in the past?
Yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting topic because I don't know if you saw the episode I did with Chris Urban, the ketologist. It was a really good episode
Yeah,
because
yeah,
he talks about using like low carb and ketogenic athletes. I'm sorry, low carb and ketogenic diets when he was training athletes, getting athletes ready for the combine. Getting linemen to drop weight, hit a certain weight range, right? And what's interesting is, so going back to your question, I'm sorry, what was the question again? Do I think we need carbs here, or what was the question? Oh, do we have a delay?
how does it compare now versus in the past in terms of building muscle or maintaining it?
So, I mean, I don't think you need carbs to build muscle. Like straight up, I don't think you need carbs to build muscle at all. But here is what I would say, and I don't think you need carbs to maintain muscle. I think the body can figure that out. But what I do think, and this is where people might get crazy upset, is when you're trying to push it to optimal levels of performance and competition, I do think the carbs help you with putting more food down. I do think it helps for now. This is where you might disagree, right? You are the competitive bodybuilder, not me, and you're doing it on a carnivore diet. But I do think once performance becomes your ultimate priority, once your performance is more important than your health, that's when I think carbs can be useful for some professional athletes who get paid to utilize carbs for performance, for building out a physique, filling out on stage, that type of thing. But I'll stop there. I'll stop there. I want to see what your 2 cents are.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a case of we look at what's important on the extreme ends of the spectrum. Um, I mean, one rational reason for having like a carb feeding, I guess, around the workouts is that you'll refuel muscle glycogen a bit quicker. But
Yeah,
you don't need to do that if your next workout is the next morning. So it doesn't need to be this kind of rush kind of thing. Um,
yeah.
So glycogen synthesis is pretty fast. It's not like, I mean, myself, if I'm bodybuilding, I'm competing, usually do like a bit of a deplete kind of phase and a filling out kind of phase. If I just eat 50 grams more fat per day, it doesn't take that much more just to increase my sort of mass, my fullness of the muscle. That's what I've noticed. It just happens at a quick rate if you eat carbs, but obviously there's the health deleterious side of things, I guess, especially if you eat too much of them. I think as well, I mean, the, the biggest argument they have is really towards the idea of like the insulin spiking thing. But when we actually look at the long term, it doesn't resolve in anything. So people say about, oh, Sean Baker's testosterone levels a few levels years back was low, and it's like, well, yeah, but what does that testosterone convert into? What if the normative range of people have poor genetics or poor lifestyle, which impacts their conversion from testosterone into DHEA, into DHT, into all these other little hormones downstream, into IGF-1. So it's a weak argument, really. What are your thoughts towards that?
I mean, here's just my straight up thoughts. If the title of this episode is why you do not need carbs to get huge, I think so. There's a couple things in there. Now, I am not a professional bodybuilder. I am not a genetically huge person. You are much bigger and stronger than I am. If I was trying to put on, well, here's what I would tell you. And we've talked about this already. This brings me back to our conversation when we were talking about, what's his name? The slow burn personal training. Had him on the podcast. You know exactly who I'm talking about.
Fred Hahn.
Fred Hahn. Yeah. This is what I will tell you in the audience. I am at my genetic capabilities. In my opinion, I'm at my genetic capabilities. I don't think, right? I'm going to be 42 years old in January. I am at my max genetic capabilities in terms of building muscle on a low carb or carnivore diet. I don't think I will be able to build. Now, I think I can get stronger, right? But I don't think I can put on 20 pounds of muscle from here on out. Like, my genetics are not going to allow me to do that. And I've told you this before. If I wanted to try to put on more muscle and I were going to change something, what would I do? And performance and aesthetics was my number one, right? My number one priority above my health. If that became my priority number one above my health, right? I would probably start eating more carbs. Why? Because I've said this before. The one thing that I have a problem with on the carnivore diet is it's hard for me to eat. Like, I'm just satiated. I'm always full. And for me to put on more mass, I need to give my body more resources. And I've said this in the past. The more carbohydrates you have in your diet, the more white rice you have in your diet, the more you're going to be able to eat, right? And people shit all over me on Instagram. I said this on Instagram. People freak out. But it's so much. But why do they serve bread? Why do you go to a restaurant?
It'll be the same.
Yeah.
It'll be the same argument in reverse. They'll say, but you should be eating more meals and stuff. Or carbs make you eat more meals. But when it comes to, like, saying a carbohydrate to do something to stimulate appetite, no, you don't want that. Which is it? You have to be goal specific,
Yeah. And if I'm trying to eat, I have to put down more resources. I have to eat more food because I'm trying to put on more mass. I've got to have more resources. The carbs are going to help me do that, right? If I add white rice to every single meal, the carbs are going to help me do that. So I honestly think it just comes down to the individual goal. And I will say this, if your goal is weight loss, if your goal is overall body composition, I've said this on the internet before, right? The fewer carbs you have in your diet, the less insulin spikes you're going to have, right? So if you remove carbohydrates and you replace with protein and fat, or maybe a little bit more protein than fat, you will be full for longer. You will be satiated. Your insulin's going to regulate. You can go longer between meals. Therefore, you are going to it's going to be easier to maintain that calorie deficit. You will by default lose weight. So I think like being on a low carb, carnivore, ketogenic diet, it is much easier to lose weight than for someone to be eating 4 or 5 times a day, small meals with carbs in those meals. Because every time you eat that white rice or the potato or the starch, the insulin's going to spike. It's going to drop. 2 hours later, you're going to be hungry again. Right. So my point here is this. It's all dependent on the goal. And if you want to make weight loss and improving your body composition effortless, lower your carbs, get the carbs out. Because if you have carbs in the diet and you are just trying to stick to a specific a calorie deficit goal, what's going to happen? You're white knuckling. You're white knuckling every single day, right? Because you're thinking about food every single day. So again, it just comes down to what the goal is. If I'm trying to put on mass, I might bring carbs in. I might bring carbs in the diet because I'm going to be able to eat more food, right? And I'm going to be able to put on more mass. And that's my issue. So with carnivore, I'm carnivore now, but as I go into my strength period in the fall, in the wintertime, I will probably bring in a little bit of carbohydrate, 50 grams of carbs every other day at night so I can eat more food. That's just a personal thing with me. But right now I'm carnivore. I feel great. But as my training changes, my goals changes, and I try to go through a strength and muscle building phase, I'm going to bring in some carbs because it's hard for me to eat a lot of food on carnivore. I'm always full, you know?
Yeah, that's a fair argument. Just to play devil's advocate, one could say that because, I mean, you have to put point both sides of the argument. So you might say, well, maybe, Max, your body is meant to be this musculature. So therefore, we're capping you out at whatever your body weight is. And that's your natural amount that your body can tolerate. So then, of course, like you said, like when we're pushing when we get close to our potential, so your capacity, my capacity, there's diminishing returns. You have to work twice as hard to get maybe a tenth of the result.
Correct.
So now you're at the point where it's like, well, something else has to change. You have to unlock the bottleneck. In my experience, what I'd usually do, if I was working with you and that's a problem that you came across with.
Sure, I want to know. And let's say I didn't want to bring in carbs.
Yeah.
Let's say I did not want to bring in carbs, but I was trying to increase mass and I'm already capped. Yeah, I want to see what you would do.
Yeah, sure. So what I'd probably do is I'd ask you to get a blood test first, looking at things like your liver, kidney, inflammatory markers, see if something was chronically elevated. Also, as a start point towards the intervention that we'd be doing, you'd be able to have like a point of this is where I am right now. I feel better, feel worse, stronger, weaker down the line. You pinpoint what the change was. So other things as well. So I said inflammatory markers. I'd say as well things like thyroid levels. So underactive thyroid could be a problem. An overactive thyroid could be a problem. Maybe you're too energetic and your NEAT is too high. Maybe I know you're energetic sort of thing. So yeah, your NEAT could be very high. So I'll be finding ways to sort of calm down the central nervous system, activate the PNS. So I'll be into like recovery, like meditation, yogi, stretching kind of stuff, that sort of thing. Then look at that, so see how that went. And if you're like, no, I don't want to do that, might suggest some calming amino acids or herbs, maybe theanine, maybe ashwagandha, maybe there's a load of them, glycine, taurine, anything like that. Anything sort of calm the body down, basically. So a GABAergic, whatever the word is, those sort of compounds. And failing that, then I'd look at the actual way you're cooking food as well, of course. So for me, I can chomp down ground beef like no one's business. It takes me seconds. It probably takes about 2 minutes to eat a meal of ground beef, and it takes maybe 5 to 10 minutes to eat a meal of chicken to actually chew it. So I'd look at that as well. So maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's the bottleneck. Maybe you're not having all the food on your plate. So maybe you're cooking up the ground beef, getting a spoon, but not having the fat that's rendered off. So I'll be looking at like the tracking side of it as well. So there's so many things, paths we have to go down to sort of work out. Okay, well, he just doesn't want to add carbs, but if we take all of those things off, There's
Yeah.
no human error if you're cooking or preparation or tracking. There's no recovery issues. You're doing all the biohacks. Then yeah, add in carbs. Some people it's not that serious. Like for you, you're a very fit and healthy individual, so you're not gonna be worried about being diabetic, especially with how active you are. With
Yeah.
adding 50 grams of carbs, it's just very unrealistic. So
Yeah.
that's what I would do. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting that so first off, when you mentioned glycine is amazing to take before bed. Like that helps to really calm me down. That helps me sleep. My wife and I take glycine every single night. That's a phenomenal supplement.
Yeah.
And that really, really works for sleep for sure. And then in regards to the blood test, which is funny. So last Friday I had my blood work done. I posted it on my Instagram stories, and it's going to be interesting to see what it comes back as. I should get those results here probably within the next week or so. But yeah, no, I 100% agree. Like I think the first thing to do would be to take a look at all the blood markers, and then make sure the diet is in alignment with what the blood test says, but also too what the goals are, right? Like the diet has to match what the goals are. Like you're not gonna put on a ton of mass, doing heavy strength training and you're eating 1 meal a day or 2 meals a day. Like it's especially not at my level, right? Like I'm gonna have to change my dietary patterns for sure. But I think looking at the blood makes the most sense. So yeah, I would agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, your blood work shows you a lot of things you wouldn't have thought were there. If you're chronically
100%.
inflamed, you've got some kind of immunological issue. That's like a big warning sign. Your body's fighting something. So you
Yeah.
want to work out as well if it's transient. Is it just a chronic thing or is it an acute thing? There's so much to look at, but so not everyone has the time, money, and energy to invest doing all these things. But yeah, I mean, I guess that brings us to the next point of our discussion then, about how there's no carnivore athletes. Well, how many do you know of? Like other than myself, I mean, there's a handful of us. So like maybe Robert Sykes, he's ketogenic.
Yeah.
We've got the All Black 2011 rugby team. That's what Professor Bart K says. Erling Haaland, he's kind of carnivore-ish. One of the best footballers in the
Definitely
world.
animal based. Definitely animal based. Him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, especially if he's eating organs and drinking raw milk. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Can you think of any others? Because I mean, we've got people there in different sports. We've got sprinters, we've got bodybuilders, we've got footballers. So skill, technical, ballistic, and physique sports, I guess.
Well, here's what's interesting, and I brought this up at the very beginning. So I did a podcast with Chris Irvin, the ketologist, right? And we were talking about offensive and defensive linemen in the NFL, the National Football League. So not soccer, American football. And some of these linemen are huge, right? They're anywhere between 6'3" to like 6'8", 330 pounds, humongous human beings. And he was training some of these individuals for the combine, trying to get them a little bit lighter, a little bit faster, a little bit more powerful, right? For those of you that don't know, the NFL combine is where all the elite college NFL players go. So the NFL scouts come in, they scout them, and they figure out who they're going to draft in the NFL draft. So it's like kind of assessing these players based off their height, their weight, the position they play, their performance. So he was working at the time with a lot of NFL linemen that were trying to become professional football players. And the one thing that was funny, and I want to get your 2 cents on this. So for a lot of these guys that he was trying to drop in weight, for some of these linemen, he needed to get them to lose a little bit of weight. He was putting them on a lower carb diet. He was trying to remove the carbs so they can drop a little bit of weight and get into the weight range, the ideal weight range that they needed to be at for their specific position that they played. And the athletes were saying to him, well, yeah, that makes sense, but don't I need the carbs to perform? Don't I need the carbs to perform? And what he would say back to the athletes is because most of these guys were insulin resistant. So he was saying, what good Is it having the carbs in your diet? If you're an offensive lineman and you're 340 pounds and you're insulin resistant, you can't use the carbs anyways. The carbs aren't necessarily doing anything for you. And when he said that, I thought that was really, really interesting. And I kind of want to get your 2 cents on that. Like, what's happened? Because I think that goes against what everybody typically thinks. Like, if you have a big NFL football player and he's massive, typically higher on the BMI scale, specifically a lineman, would it be more beneficial for them to go lower carb, get their weight down? But the problem is then they can't play their specific position if they don't have enough body mass, right? Because you're pushing against another 300-pound plus human being. But I want to get your 2 cents on that, because do you think that's actually the case? Like, if you are obese or you're higher on the BMI scale and you're insulin resistant, what good is actually eating carbohydrates if you can't use them as energy? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because I thought that was crazy interesting when he said that.
Yeah, it's very profound, and a lot of people wouldn't have the sort of hindsight to think, well, this is where you're going, this is where you are now. You've got to get to a certain weight, but that weight is probably not going to be helpful for your sport. But there is a certain weight that you feel good at, that you're healthy at, so therefore we should shoot for that. It's just a case of deconstructing the problem, isn't it, really? It's just engineering, reverse engineering. I guess my sort of practice would be to think, well, okay, if I know, say, for example, 2,000 grams of carbs a day made him gain weight and insulin resistant, but I know 1,500 didn't, I'd shoot for 1,500. I'd still be using the same fuel source, allowing him to sort of maintain good weight, strength, recovery, energy on the field, things like that. In terms of like going completely full circle, I mean, omitting the carbs, I don't know, but obviously he might have omitted it, he might have just went lower carb. So these guys, don't forget, these guys are probably eating over 1,000 grams of carbs a day, easily.
Yeah, easily.
Which is like 15, 20 packets of rice or something stupid. If you think about that, okay, well, if they drop to even 800 grams, that's still a 200 gram drop, which is quite significant. 200 grams is meant to be like, well, over a week, you probably lose about a pound a week doing that or more, maybe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, they've got to do drastic things, but it's one of those things that I don't think there'll be many more carnivore athletes in terms of like ballistic sports. And I played line and O-line when I was in university. That was pretty good. But my bottleneck was not having a big enough team, so I had to play both sides of the pitch, which is not great.
Yeah.
And also, although I was like more muscular, stronger, and faster than the other players, I don't have that low center of gravity, so I'd easily get like flipped to the side, sort of thing. So I mean, if I was 4 or 5 stone heavier, I think it would have been very good. I was getting beaten by shorter people, but very stocky with more weight. So you do need the weight for those sort of sports for sure.
Exactly. So here's what brings me back to the point that I was trying to get at a little bit earlier. In that situation, right, if you're playing a sport, you want to become the best at the sport, or you want to become a top tier level athlete in that sport, your performance has now surpassed your health, right? Your performance is now priority number one, because it is now your job. Like, especially if you're playing professionally, right? You want to keep your job. That's how you get paid. That's how you feed your family. So what does that mean? Your performance now moves above your health in terms of the priority. So it would make sense for an athlete that's practicing all day, right? Practicing all day long. It's their job. They're out on the pitch. They're out on the field. They're weight training constantly. They might have to utilize an extra fuel source, which is carbohydrates, because their number one goal is performance. And it's going to help to keep them at a certain body weight so they can push another human being around, which is their job, right? But here's what's interesting. How much depth, like let's say you play professionally, you're a lineman professionally for 10 years. And for the majority of those 10 years, you have a high BMI, you're chronically insulin resistance for the majority of that 10 years, and let's say you retire, what would I then do? I would focus on my health. And I would go on a lower carbohydrate diet, ketogenic carnivore diet, drop the weight, because now being insulin resistant for 10 years, what detrimental health impact, like what negative impact have you caused being overweight, right? The amount of visceral fat you've had for 10 years, your insulin resistance, you have probably caused a lot of downstream negative effects, to things like mitochondria, your organs, all those types of things. The second I retire, I would go on a lower carb diet. I would change my training, and then that's going to help to remove the insulin resistance, and hopefully I have a good quality of life. That's what I would probably do if I was a pro athlete, especially an offensive or defensive lineman. That's it.
Yeah, I'd probably do the same if I'm honest. Yeah, I mean, if you ask most Olympic athletes, if you could sacrifice, all but 5 years of your life to win a gold medal, would you do it? And most of them said yes.
Yes. Yeah, they would.
So, the athlete mindset are crazy thing.
I have a question, Jonathan. I have a question here for you. When I was talking with Chris Irvin, he was actually saying that there are a lot more lower carb, ketogenic, and carnivore athletes in professional sports than we actually think, because they don't typically divulge a lot about what they're doing. And he told me, and he actually told me on the podcast, like, you would be pretty surprised. There's a lot more like lower carb athletes in professional sports than we typically realize. They just don't talk about it. That's another thing. You know what I mean? But if you were to take a sample size, right? If you were to, and this is a question for you. If you were to take a sample of the top sprinters in the world, like let's say you went to the Olympics and you went and talked to all of the 100-meter sprinters, right? Those are probably some of the most conditioned, well-muscled athletes on planet, like Usain Bolt, right? You talk to the guy from Sweden, you talk to the guy from US, you talk to the guy from London, you talk to the guy from Russia, like you brought them all together and you were to ask them what their diet was, what do you think they would say?
I think it wouldn't be as high carb as what we think it is, like the media, mainly because of like the sponsors. So, they sort of bring it, they sort of turn up with their bottles of Lucozade, Gatorade, whatever it is. That's a big sponsor for them, and realistically, yeah, they might drink those, but it doesn't sort of reflect what they're having the rest of the day. They might be doing some sort of like carb backloading sort of thing,
Yeah.
The other issue is if you're competing in sports. I mean, it's very specific. If you're playing, you're a sprinter. So I used to be a sprinter. I was at the county level, and typically a sort of maybe what you call it is a training is about an hour and a half long. Maybe half an hour of it is like warm-ups and cool-downs. At the start, we did maybe 2 laps, and it was maybe 10 sets of sprints. Then cool-down was another lap or 2. It took us about an hour and a half each time, twice a week or something. So I was doing a lot of work, but only for a short period of time. Now compare my glycogen load necessary for that versus Mo Farah, Paul Radcliffe, or whoever doing a long, like a long run, or Lance Armstrong doing like 1,000 miles or something stupid. Your glycogen depletion is going to be much greater. I was
100%.
doing something twice a week because you can't really sprint every day, but you can run every day, like for a long run.
Yeah.
So if I'm sprinting, say 2 to 3 times a week in training, you think 2 to 3 times a week, my active work might have been maybe, I don't know, say 10 minutes per session. I think half an hour. You need to think how much glycogen you're going to burn in half an hour per week. It's not a massive amount. Like I'm doing business. I think that there's a case for some sort of carb backloading with the intention of being more paleo Mediterranean, like during the rest of the week. So that's what I think. So I think they probably do have have a train day diet and a rest day diet. That's what I think. Then depending on the intensity or load or the volume, the actual how much hard work they have to do. On those higher days, they probably have more food the day before, perhaps, or something like that. But that's what my suspicion would be. So I wouldn't say they're keto, but I'd say across a 7-day span, they're probably taking in, I guess, about 100 to 150 grams of carbs a day, which is lower carb compared to, I think the RDA is meant to be like 300 plus or something. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. You know what else would be really interesting to take a look
that's my
at?
guess.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what else would be really interesting to take a look at? If you were to look at the diet of like a soccer player, just to like take a which is, they have short bursts, but they're typically on the field for, what is it, like 90 minutes, roughly 90 minutes, sometimes longer, running back and forth, but doing a lot of running, walking.
Yeah.
And then take a look at the diet of someone that does shot put. You know what I mean? Like a bigger individual, very short burst of exercise. But it would be interesting. Like I would wonder if their diets would actually be identical. They might be identical. And the reason why I say that is the shot putter just needs like a short burst of energy, right? But you also have to have a certain like level of mass and strength and size to throw a weighted ball, 100, 200, 300 feet. But if you look at the activity level of the soccer player, they're burning more energy, they're burning more calories running around. But I would almost bet the diets might almost be similar. You know what I mean?
Mass.
Exactly. Yeah. So what I'm getting at here is your diet has to kind of mirror and match the physical activity in your training, right? It has to mirror and match it. And based off what the goal is and what you're trying to do, it has to match it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I've got nothing really to add to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the next part I'll talk today then? I can't quite remember. I think I've forgotten already.
Where are we at here? Let me see.
And if anyone has any questions, please leave them in the chat with a queue. We'll get to them shortly.
Here's a good one. Here's one I would want to know.
Yeah.
Real world results, common plateaus, and even people have questions on this, like feel free to ask. Real world results, common plateaus, and how to keep recovery, hormones, and training intensity high without reintroducing carbs. Now, when I see that, what immediately comes into my mind is your fat intake. If you're a zero carb athlete or a low carb athlete, where's your energy coming from? Well, it's coming from fat, right? And if you're trying to keep your hormones optimized, you got to have enough fat in the diet. So if you are an athlete and you're trying to perform, whether it's hypertrophy, building strength, endurance, you got to have a fuel source. And if it's not carbs, it's got to be fat, right? So I would say your fat has to be high, especially if you're athletic. Right?
Yeah, I would agree. I think, I think an average athlete going around that doesn't have significant, disproportionately high physique goals. So a sprint, let's say not a sprint, maybe an 800-meter runner. They don't have to be super lean or super muscular; they just be fit and athletic, basically. Now compare them to, let's say, a bodybuilder. What am I getting at here? I'm trying to think. I think the bodybuilder, because they're just trying to gradually gain mass without gaining fat mass,
yes.
Increase or surplus of food is going to be just a little bit more. But I think if you're an athlete, you're not too concerned about body fat, your muscle mass, or anything. You just want to be strong and good at your sport, fast, skillful, recover well. So I think there might be more deviation in a sports person, a track athlete's diet than a bodybuilder's. Because we know for bodybuilding, we're capped. We're like, we can only gain X amount of muscle per month or per week. And it's a finite, it's a thing. We can't
Yeah.
make it go faster. It's impossible. But with like athleticism, you can always throw something faster. You can always run a bit faster. So therefore, you'd have a greater deviation in the diet that they had. So if they thought, well, today I'm going to push it on the rower, I'm going to go for an extra 10 minutes or go faster. Then they've actually got a reason. Okay, I need to eat a bit more today. I need to have an extra tablespoon of peanut butter or whatever they have. So that's kind of my nuanced thoughts. But yeah,
Well,
I think
real quick on
the
that
idea
point.
of Karen.
On that point, do you remember reading about the American swimmer Michael Phelps and what his diet was when he was training for the Olympics?
Yeah, like a whole table of food. Yeah.
Yeah, like I believe they were saying he was eating like
8,000
12,000
calories.
something crazy.
12,000. Yeah.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
crazy like that. But when you look at him, so he had, if I remember correctly, he was doing 3 training sessions a day, right? So he had a morning, an afternoon, and an evening training session, and he had weightlifting. So what I'm getting at here is, if you remember what his physique looked like: strong, muscular, tall, big, huge shoulders, small waist,
Broad.
like he was a swimmer. But again, like I was saying earlier, the diet has to match what your performance levels are. When you're training 3 times a day, swimming, and you're lifting weights, your energy intake has to match that output. It has to match that output. You know what I mean? If anybody else were to eat that, you're gaining 30 pounds a month. Like, even if you're working out, and you're working out an hour a day and you're hard, you're going to gain 20, 30 pounds a month.
I just thought of a massive bottleneck, which we haven't thought of yet or come across. So I think digestion is like the key part which separates elite compared to those who cannot be elite. So if you think that, the more you, almost to a degree, the further you run, the further you have to run to get better. So that your output has to be greater over time to achieve a faster speed of bigger lift. Something has to increase.
Yes.
What am I getting at again? Sorry, my brain's gone today. Remind me where I was. Sorry, my brain's completely gone.
I think you were getting at, like, if your energy output is increasing over time, right? If your energy output is increasing, but I think this is what was going through my mind. But if your energy intake,
that was
your
it.
food intake,
I remember now. Yeah, so your digestion is the bottleneck. So you can always try harder to get a better job done in your sport, but if you can't digest the food needed to compete with the training that you're doing, the output, then you can never get better. So if you wanted to be a sumo wrestler, you'd be the last person I'd pick for my team, because I know for you, your bottleneck is how much you can eat.
Yeah,
your bottleneck is how much you can eat. You see what I mean? So although you might eat a good amount of food now, you're not going to be 300 kilos. So that'd be your bottleneck, obviously. Then for me, my bottlenecks are digestion's one of them, just because I don't want to take more significant health risks than I would have or have done so far to get bigger to compete at a greater level. There's no point for my health reasons. So my bottleneck is obviously how much I can eat. One, it's also my joints as well. So my diet cannot be an inflammatory diet which aggravates my joints. That means I can't recover from the training. I needed to perform better.
That's why you have to eat lower carb.
That's
why you have to eat zero carb. 100%. Yeah.
Exactly. But if you said to me, Max, you said to me, Max, it's going to be doomsday in 6 months' time, and I'm giving you this magic pill which stops all your pain and your nerve pain or whatever, and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to buy all the HGH and testosterone and trend bologna sandwich sandwiches sort of thing. I inject all of it all at once every single day. I'd eat all the food. Then yeah, I might get better sort of thing as a bodybuilder, but what health risk would there be? You know, I'm not going to be doing
Yeah.
that past 6 months. So
Yeah.
you see what I mean? So yeah, it's although you know some people have better digestion with carbs. I mean, imagine you're trying to get the same sort of macro or energy potential energy balance as Eddie Hall. You're as big as him, but he said, right, you've got to do it, but you've got to do it on a strict carnivore diet with no carbs at all, no extra flavorings, nothing. Do you think he's going to be sat there eating, I don't know, 10 kilos of ribeye steaks?
He
Do you
ain't
think
gonna
his
be able to do
digestive
it.
system can keep up with the fat intake? He's not going to be able to do it. So as we said
He's
in the
not gonna be able
previous
to do it.
podcast and today's thing, it's
Yeah.
the bottleneck is how much you can eat. And in terms of health first purposes, yeah, I just think there's a point where for me to get bigger from where I am, for you to get better at whatever your chosen sports you have, to do that you have to eat more food, and that's what I can't do. So yeah,
And that's my problem. That's literally my problem right now. Yeah.
yeah, it's a frustrating one. There's quite a few supplements I take. I mean, I try to reduce the bottlenecks I have. So I use things like betaine hydrochloride of meals. I use zinc carnosine. Keep my liver healthy, so I take TUDCA, glutathione, NAC, you know, a whole stack of things. But I think if I was just like you, maybe like a drug-free athlete or someone who just wants to live without, you know, sort of building too much muscle sort of thing, then yeah, I'd probably cut back on most of the supplements. The supplements do give you a little bit of an edge, I found. I've personally found. So,
Yeah. Well, what's interesting now, I think I brought this up 2 podcasts ago, but I have recently introduced breakfast. So literally for the last maybe 8 years, I have not eaten breakfast. Like ever since I went low carb carnivore, I have removed breakfast, mainly because I'm just not hungry in the morning. But recently, as I'm approaching fall and I'm changing my training, I'm reducing my cardio, I'm trying to get stronger and put on a little bit more mass, I am introducing breakfast. And the difficult part for me is actually eating the breakfast in the morning. It's very, very difficult. I'm like choking down hamburger patties and hard boiled eggs. That's my breakfast right now. I'm playing around with a couple different things, but it's a hamburger patty with some cheese
yeah,
and it's a hard boiled egg. So it's roughly like it's actually with the hamburger patty and cheese, it's roughly about 40 grams of protein in that breakfast. It's hard. It's hard to eat that breakfast. It would be much easier for me to just not eat breakfast, work out fasted, and have a lunch and have a dinner. But the problem here is that's not in alignment with the goals that I have for myself. Like my body's not going to build more mass or more muscle if I don't have enough resources. Right. So again, it just comes down to like, you know, like you said, what are the bottlenecks? Like my bottleneck is 100% my appetite. And does the way that you're eating now, like that's why I've been stuck at my current body weight for the last 8 years. Like I'm at my max muscle mass. My body does not want to build any more muscle mass. And it can't technically build any more muscle mass when you're eating 2 meals a day. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to get to like 200 pounds. My body won't let me get to 200 pounds if I'm eating two
yeah,
meals a day. It's not
yeah,
enough resources, you know? So that's why again, it kind of goes back to like, does the diet that you're eating align with the goals? You're not going to get to 200 pounds by eating 2 meals a day or eating OMAD and doing intermittent fasting. That's what you would do if you wanted to lose weight. You know what I mean? So again, I just think it's funny when you mentioned bottleneck. That's what was going through my mind. You know, I am the bottleneck.
yeah, yeah. I tend to scale the amount of meals I give to clients. If they have one meal a day and that's what they like, I do what they like. You know, I don't change it unless they're open to changing it. But if I had someone your size, I'd probably having them typically being 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
And that could be, you know, even if one meal was like a shake with 2 boiled eggs or something, that'd be fine. Like, it's not the biggest deal. But in terms of like the fat distribution or where I might put carbs sort of thing, I'd usually actually put carbs if I did before the workout period.
Mm.
Um, Not in the sense that I'm worried that you need topping off so much into like glycogen, because I think if you're eating enough fat, your body will do that anyway. But it's more for the sake of like a mood boost. I think it
Ah,
gives you some like a dopamine hit sort of thing. There's some
makes
people, if you're
sense.
having a bad day, and imagine what it takes for you between having a bad day and a good day, and you think, oh, before I go to the gym, I'm going to have an apple sort of thing. And that's like my ritual. I had a client, Kimberly, who I did that with. She wasn't in a bad mood, but I was she's near the end of prep and it's getting stressful. So I thought, oh, have a rice cake or something, So kind of things like
Mm.
that can be helpful. It's about the bigger picture, obviously, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
if you can't train hard in the best way, you're going to optimize everything around that. Then you're not going to get better. So for you, Max, obviously your schedule is your schedule. I know you work from home, but you're going to, for example, organize your day, your meals, your podcasts, and things around a way which allows you to still achieve your goals of building muscle. So it might be that meal one you don't feel that hungry for, but meal three in the evening you're really hungry for. So maybe the first meal might be a smaller meal, second might be bigger, then third might be bigger than that. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. But I'm always conscious of making sure every meal has like a proper protein feeding. Um, in terms of like the fat content, that's very individual as well. So I know if someone, for example, doesn't have time for some reason to have food in the morning, and I know they train first thing in the morning, I might put the fat content at bedtime the night before, just 'cause it's closer. They'll also be able to probably get through the workout a bit better because they've still got the highest amount of potential food substrate on board. So that's my take on food timing, but we'll probably cover this in another episode. Do you have any more questions?
I mean,
I
I don't
have
know if
one here.
if the listeners have any more questions.
Oh, there we go.
Here's a question: what about milk thistle for liver?
Yeah,
100%. Yeah. Yes. Take it. That's what I think.
yeah, I use that. Yeah, I use I think it's 600 milligrams a day. I tend to take it meal with meal three and meal four. I don't like to take too many supplements in one time period, so I'd rather split them out. I take it
Ah,
close towards bedtime because that's when you increase your glutathione levels, your phase two liver detoxifications, and processing at a greater rate. So in my head, I think like oh, if I take it close to where my body's naturally clearing things out, that might give me more benefit. But you know, uh, yeah, there's lots of things for liver, and liver health is certainly key because you can't process all the waste of your body if you're not processing things properly with your liver. We only get one as well, which doesn't help.
the liver is a crazy organ,
Yeah,
though,
what's your
right?
sort of supplement protocol anyway, Max? While we're here,
So so let me start off in the morning. Like in the morning when I wake up, I fill one of these up, 20 ounces of water, and roughly a serving of real salt, Redmond. So that comes out to like 430 milligrams of sodium, whatever. I think it's a quarter teaspoon, like 430 milligrams of sodium in creatine. So I front load creatine in the morning. So I'll drink in the morning one of those,
yeah,
salt, water, creatine, and then I'll have my now breakfast that I've been trying to choke down. And then like
yeah,
throughout the day, I am drinking. So I'm in Texas and it's 100 degrees every single day. And here's what I've noticed, just talking about electrolytes and supplements. Here's what I've noticed. I was I basically have salt with every single day. Every single time I'm filling this up, I'm adding a quarter teaspoon of salt. But what I noticed was from a training benefit, if I add like 1,000 milligrams of potassium, I notice pre-workout, right? I make a pre-workout drink. So I fill this up with water, creatine, salt, and then I add 1,000 milligrams of potassium. I think it's got like actually, I think it has like 800 milligrams. You can buy it on Amazon. It's called like potassium cocktail. The flavor is orange. It's really good. I throw it in there. And the more potassium I have pre-workout, the better I feel, the better the workout is. I feel my muscles contract a little bit better when I'm properly electrolyted, if that's a word. But I sweat a lot and it's hot.
Yeah.
So if I'm not on top of my electrolytes, especially my potassium, the workouts are going to fail. My sleep, I'll cramp at night. Like, it's just too damn hot. And then I take, like, you know, the standard supplements. Like, I take fish oil. I take my first round of supplements right after I eat lunch. So I'll usually work out, I'll eat lunch, and I'll take supplements. So it's like vitamin D3. I take things for like my thyroid. I forgot what it's called. My wife buys a lot of the supplements online for me, and she kind of stacks me up there. But yeah, I just take like general vitamins and supplements, nothing crazy. Yeah. But the electrolytes is a big one, especially when it's hot.
Yeah. I'm saying electrolytes. When I get leaner, I end up using more of them. So off season, I might use a handful of scoops a week, like maybe round training, maybe. Pre-contest, I'll do 2 or 3 a day. But my food is very heavily salted. Extremely heavily salted. I'm probably getting about 10 grams of potassium per day, 12 grams, 1,000 milligrams. So I'm getting a lot of potassium as well. But I do sweat a lot, and my body's running at a fast rate, and I use like peptides and things. Anytime you sort of use more of your mitochondria, you do need more things to plug in the resource gap. So I think if I wasn't using some of the supplements I took, then I wouldn't need the electrolytes, to be honest. But that's just me. Yeah.
I think the potassium is key. I think people underconsume potassium. I think everyone, especially in the world of carnivore, it's always salt, you know? And salt's obviously really important. But man, if you do not have enough potassium, especially if you live in a warmer weather climate and you sweat a lot, you will see a decrease in performance, 1,000%. Once I started upping up my potassium, I felt so much better, 1,000%. And it's like, when you think about it, if you're on a carnivore diet or a low carb diet, especially if you can't consume dairy, you're not going to get a lot of potassium. Like, a lot of the potassium comes from things like the avocados, the dairy. But like, what's funny is I'm allergic to avocado. I can't eat it. I can't eat avocado, and I don't eat a ton of dairy. So I'm naturally lower on potassium. So I have to supplement with it.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Unfortunately, there's not many like cleaner plant sources that are high in potassium. That makes sense. Like, there's some things, but they're high in carbs. Like, there isn't like a lettuce leaf which is like 0 oxalate, 0 everything else, 0 toxin. But you can just add into your food, like just blandly, sort of thing. From time to time, though, I've had like I think it was last week. I had some celery and some mushrooms. So two of like the low. I don't know. They don't tend to irritate my body really. But it's not normal. It's not like a staple for me. So I just put them in the broth, and I use them medicinally at the time. So, but other than that, I mean, potassium. I do sometimes use a low potassium salt. You can actually buy potassium chloride from a supplement shop sometimes. It's just like an actual powder. But if you do buy that, guys, use a proper scale to weigh it, and don't just say, "Oh, do a spoon of this." If it's a heap spoon versus a flat spoon, you could probably kill yourself. Your body can't get rid of potassium very easily. Once it's in your body, it's unless you take a load of activated charcoal, you're not going to sort of get it out really. Basically, it can cause problems with your atrial valve and things like that. But yeah, be careful with the electrolytes. Electrolytes, guys, aren't like a free for all. You can't say, "Oh, 1 scoop gives me 200 ml, then I drink 4 liters daily, so I'm going to have like 20 scoops." You could die. So just a little firm warning there.
Yeah. If I may, I'm going to respond to this guy in the comments, Jonathan. Charger Mopar question: Do you get the itch mouth from the avocados like I do? Yes, I do. Yeah, 100%. So if I have sometimes, like especially in the US, if you go to like a Mexican food restaurant, they sneak avocado into like a lot of the dishes. You know what I mean? Like if you have tacos with like, and they have like a cream sauce in there, like an avocado cream sauce. Sometimes you take a bite, you don't know what's in there. So what happens to me is my lips, right? My lips start to blow up. I get a rash in the back of my throat. And a lot of the times, like my stomach will get upset and then I'll throw up. That's what happens to me. So I'm allergic to avocados. I can't eat them. So I'll get the mouth itch. I'll get the lips that blow up. And the same thing happens when I eat bananas. So I've never eaten bananas my entire life or avocados. Cannot do them. The same thing happens. And I don't know if it's some sort of a compound inside of the fruit that does that to me. But everyone used to make fun of me because like they're like, oh, aren't you like the keto guy and you can't eat avocados? Isn't that weird? I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, they're just not part of the diet. Like I'll eat eggs, no avocados. But yeah, I can't do avocados or bananas.
I think I've had 2 avocados in my life. That includes in like the form of guacamole and everything. I've never cared for it at all. Like I've never like looked at it and think, well, that looks appetizing. But when I ate it, I didn't like dislike it. It's just something I've no appeal for. You know, like imagine chocolate but without any sugar in it. It's just a bit of a letdown. You know?
Yeah, I can't do them.
Yeah, things I can't tolerate are pork. Yeah, pork, berries, and dark chocolate especially. I can't.
What happens when you eat pork? Out of curiosity.
When I eat pork, I tend to get like feels like a needle in my stomach sort of soreness, distension. With the berries, it feels like you put like a watermelon inside my body, then inflated it and blow it up. It gets really sore.
Yeah.
Like really bloated, like Homer Simpson bloated. The dark chocolate is more. It's all mental. It's all mental for the dark chocolate. It's makes me feel depressed, anxious, like manic. Like I wouldn't be functioning in society, sort of thing, if I eat that every day. But yeah. There we go. We got a question here from Kimberly.
Max, are you allergic to latex? I am, and I've had the same reaction even with kiwi. So what's funny is going about the latex situation. No, not allergic to latex. I saw someone else say something about kiwis in here. No, it was Kimberly. Yeah, so kiwis, I don't have the reaction as bad as avocados and bananas, but I do get a reaction when I eat kiwis. Don't eat them. Can't really eat them. It's funny. My whole entire family eats kiwis and avocados, and even my family makes fun of me. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you can't have avocado. My son makes fun of me. He eats avocado all the time. He's completely fine. I just can't do it. But kiwis, yes, can't do them either.
Yeah. Yeah. Chocolate gives me migraines. Yeah. It's a compound called theobromine. Apparently, I think over a third of people have that same intolerance thing that I have, or the genetic expression where they can't break down the enzyme which breaks down theobromine. So that's what I've heard. But yeah, it's weird. Chocolate's a thing people are meant to enjoy, but I don't really care for it. And when I've had it, I've never like I'll eat it if it's on an ice cream and it's a special occasion, but I prefer white chocolate. I wouldn't really go nuts for it.
I'm not like a crazy sweets guy. I've never been a crazy sweets guy. Like if I were to do like a cheat, if I go to the movies with my kids, I'll have some popcorn, but I won't eat the sweets. I've never been like a real sweet person. I'd rather have like the snacks, you know what I mean? Like the chips or the crisps, as you guys would call them, like chips and popcorn. That would be more my thing rather than the sweets. Like they just don't do it for me.
Yeah, I would say I'm both. I like both savory and sweet. My problem is because I'm always either competing, prepping, or I'm in the off season. I'm always in a state of I want more food, or I want less food. So I want more savory food in the off season, but by default of trying to get so much food in, it's all like dairy and like protein powder, like whey and stuff.
Yeah.
In pre-contest, I'm eating more savory food just because it's lower fat sort of thing, lower There's not much butter, sort of thing. Basically, not much eggs and dairy. I'm always craving sweet things, so love to find a happy medium where I stay in shape, then I can eat food I like and enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's all the questions for today. Anyway, not too bad.
Charger Mopar says, I know you probably know who that is. He says my cheat is a ribeye steak. I think so. Really quick on that.
Yeah.
I think for so the people that eat ribeye steaks every single day and they're putting tons of butter on them, but they're trying to lose weight. I think that's not the way you want to go.
Recipe for disaster.
A ribeye steak, in my opinion, that is a cheat. That's a cheat meal. Like if I have ribeye, it's typically like once a week on a Saturday if I'm cooking for my family. But I would agree with that gentleman right there. Like a ribeye steak, in my opinion, is a cheat. That's not something I would eat every single day. Like,
yeah,
it's just not.
Yeah, Charger Mopar is Rick, by the way, 42-year carnivore, I think. We're going to wrap it up there, guys, because I've got to go now. But the next topic for next week, I can't believe we've done week 3 already. Can you train to failure on zero carbs? Dun, dun, dun.
Can you train to failure?
You have to wait and tune in to find the answer.
All right.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
All right. Cheers, guys.